Chapter 7 Galimarian ship Adrian, acting Captain Glendarra, amulet companion to Captain Eobach Aramin. Voyage log date, Murista 12th, 143112. We've been underway for a few weeks now, and all systems are nominal. Formerly, I would spend time hanging around the neck or resting on the armband of Eobach, but due to the responsibilities I have agreed to take on with this voyage, most of my time has been spent in a cradle on the bridge. To facilitate interface with the crew, I have taken to using a holographic projection of myself to any crew member who needs to discuss any necessary items. Since I am connected to the ship's computer systems, I'm able to carry on any number of conversations simultaneously. Even now, while Eobach sleeps in his stateroom, I am discussing the needs of the hydroponics labs with the resident botanist, assisting with final testing of the shield generators, and keeping track of the stellar constellations and their positions while we travel through space. Since the shield generators are only now being fine-tuned, we have been traveling at approximately 1/4% of our intended speed. We didn't want any stray meteorite making it past the shield and piercing the hull of the ship. Just prior to recording this log entry, our chief engineer, Rezax Deshan, finished a conversation with me regarding the shields, which are now fully operational. He is the one I have been asked to revive from suspended animation, SA for short, in case anything goes wrong mechanically. 87.2% of crew personnel have been placed in SA and are now resting until we arrive at Eden. Of note is a conversation I had with Eobach's wife, Ruavu. Their newborn baby was being put in the SA chamber for the first time, and she expressed hesitancy. She knew this technology had been deemed completely safe for all life forms centuries ago, but she still expressed the misgivings which seem to be common to mothers. I must confess I am unable to understand these misgivings. It is only logical to trust technology that has been unfailingly operational for the past 572 years. Since the shield generators are the last system to be tuned, I anticipate Eobach will order all remaining crew to enter SA hibernation tomorrow. Eobach himself will be the last one to enter the chamber. From that point on, I will be in charge during the 10-year voyage to Eden. End of line. Galimarian ship Adrian, acting Captain Glendarra, amulet companion to Captain Eobach Aramin. Voyage log date, Emunar 17th, 143115. A little more than 3 years have elapsed since the start of the voyage to Eden. For the most part, the day-in and day-out events of the ship show all systems are running properly. On a monthly basis, I am in communication with Galimar. However, since the distance between us is growing each and every day, the time it takes for transmissions is growing longer and longer. Only 3 years into our mission, it is now taking 4 days for their transmission to get to us, or for my transmission to get to them. They report all on Galimar as normal, and while there is no new news to report from our ship, interest in our mission has never been higher among all Galimarian people. They have requested I supply them information on the star systems and celestial phenomena we encounter along the way, so they at least have something to tell the people. Yesterday, I had to revive Chief Engineer Rezax Deshan to take a look at the number 3 shield generator. The ship could operate just fine with only one shield, but since we have redundant shields for a reason, I wanted to make sure nothing was wrong with the shield. It turned out the shield was fine. It was my monitoring system that was flawed, so he repaired it within a few hours, then returned to SA. Of note is when I revived him from SA, he felt a little disoriented. He expected he wouldn't be revived until reaching Eden, so when he learned it had only been about 3 years, he was noticeably dismayed. I'm not sure why that would be the case. Eobach always did say I needed to learn more about Galimarian psychology, and since I seem to have a lot of time on my virtual hands now, I have decided to search the copy of the Library of the Grand Council we have on file with us. I should be able to learn more about their psychology and perhaps become more Galimarian myself in the process. End of line. Galimarian ship Erigena, acting Captain Glendarra. Amulet companion to Captain Eobach Aramin. Voyage log date, Vahalen 1st, 143121. I have just finished responding to the transmission from Galimar, and since the subject matter of this transmission is what it is, I have decided to make a short mention of it in this log. Transmissions to and from Galimar are now taking 3 months each way. According to Galimarian astronomers, they have been monitoring unusual activities from the solar system where Eden is located. They weren't sure if another planet got in the way of their last observations, or perhaps something else, but they said Eden seemed to be changing in color. They had a plethora of theories why this might be the case, but none of those opinions were unanimous. Based on the spectral analysis, though, the mineral we are going to Eden for is still there. Over the last several years, I have been studying Galimarian psychology quite a bit, and part of those studies involves observing the events of Galimarian history. The archive histories of the Galimarian people was repetitive. Boring, actually, in the way global conflicts over one ideology or another occurred. As soon as that conflict was resolved, another always seemed to come along. It wasn't until I encountered the histories as recorded by Crelon Tellendor, who happens to be a member of the crew on board the Erigena, that I learned about the existence of a city named Galix. The inhabitants of this city apparently concluded that the endless cycles of conflict and resolution were actually getting in the way of Galimarians advancing as a people, and actually enjoying their lives. They decided to live a more enlightened way of life there, one that was not based on profit and pride, but on the enjoyment one derives from the simple act of learning and discovery. One of the first things they discovered was a way to defend themselves from attack from those who didn't happen to agree with them, and who thought they would be easy pickings for conquering. They never took an offensive stand, but rather showed reason, understanding, and love, while at the same time always defending their home. After continuous unsuccessful attempts at conquering Galix, these warring factions decided it just wasn't worth it. After even more time, the Galix philosophy spread to other points on the globe, eventually enveloping the entire planet. Galix was a pivotal city in the history of Galimar, and Crelons having discovered it revolutionized our understanding of Galimarian history. When I'm not scanning the Grand Council Library archives, there isn't much else to do. I have written a program and uploaded it to the main computer, which allows me to enter a sleep mode of my own. However, the computer is set so that any one of 1,372 measurement points will cause the computer to restore me from sleep mode to active mode. It will also revive me in the event a transmission comes in from Galimar. The Erigena is due to arrive at Eden next year, and I am looking forward to having the company of my Galimarian companions again. End of line. Galimarian ship Erigena, acting Captain Glendarra, amulet companion to Captain Eobach Aramin. Voyage log date, Chanavar 3rd, 143122. I don't have much time to make a log entry, but I feel it is necessary to record the events of the last several hours. We had just received a transmission from Galimar, so my program running on the main computer revived me to let me know the transmission had come in. We were due to start our deceleration in approximately 2 weeks, and according to mission parameters, it would only be then when we would begin scanning our target. The arrival of the transmission, fortunately, awakened me early. According to the transmission, something very bad seemed to be happening to the solar system where Eden was located. They strenuously advised me to switch on our long-range tracking scanners to see what I could observe, since the elapsed time of 4 months and 5 days it now takes for their transmissions to come to us would no doubt result in even more dire revelations than what they had seen. It turns out, if I had eyes to see, Looking out the observation windows would tell me all I needed to know. According to my scans, it is now apparent the changes in the Eden planet reported by me in an earlier log entry were caused by its sun preparing to explode. In fact, the explosion process had evidently been proceeding to such an extent that the sun had already expanded and its surface had already extended beyond the orbit of Eden. The planet is no more. The automatic systems of the ship had been interpreting the gravity changes to mean additional power was needed from the engines to maintain our course, and the shields were now running at 80%, far beyond the normal operating level of 35%. It was immediately apparent I had only one choice, and I didn't even have time to revive Eobach before it had to be implemented. Instead of pouring more power into maintaining our course, one that was a losing battle since we were caught in the gravity well of the expanding sun, I decided to fire up all 6 shield generators and set the engines to 108% capacity. I maneuvered the ship to an intercept course toward the sun with the intention of firing at the exact necessary time to slingshot around it. The time came, and I fired maneuvering thrusters. Within the span of a few moments, our ship's course altered. Because our speed had wildly increased, we made it to the other side of the sun in 2 minutes, and we are now speeding away from the sun. I am about to... According to the scans, now coming in from the sun behind us, it appears that the sun has exploded. End of line.